And joining us now is the longtime confidant of Barack Obama, longtime political advisor, David Axelrod. He has just written a book called Believer. It debuted at number 3 on the New York Times bestseller list this week. And it's a good book, David. I think it's a valuable addition
Thank you.
to document what this president's about and so forth. Let me just ask you this. Why is there so much confusion now about what this president believes, what he stands for? He has said himself he's not very good at the optics of all of this, but what's happened here?
You know, it's interesting. I always believe that the last president kind of sets the terms of the next election. And the last president was a very Manichaean kind of guy, black and white, saw the world in those terms. America wanted someone who saw the gray, who saw the nuances, who understood the complexities of the world, and who made decisions that had and think about the long term and not just the next step. And that's what they got in Barack Obama. So I don't know, I don't know why there is confusion. I think that there is nuance and there is an ability to see gray, which is really important in the world in which we live. That's true on foreign policy and national security. It's also true on domestic policy. He thinks several steps ahead.
But you know the criticism. You know what I'm talking about. People say he presents problems in the abstract, like a law professor. I think that's what Leon Panetta said, and more sometimes with logic rather than sometimes.
Logic is underrated.
Passion.
Logic is underrated, I think, Bob. You know, I heard Leon say that, and I was really surprised by it because I was there and I saw this president make a series of decisions about the economy, each of which were as unpopular as they were necessary. I write about that in my book, and was willing to do it because he thought it was the right thing for the country. Some folks in this town have a hard time processing that. I know he took on health care. I and others told him that this was going to be a political quagmire for him, but he felt it had to be done. And you know, I know Chuck Schumer and some others have said that that was a bad political decision, but it wasn't a bad decision for the 13 million people who have insurance today and others who will benefit in the future, and that's what he was thinking about.
Do you think, in retrospect, that he went about it in the wrong way, in the sense of Lyndon Johnson broke the civil rights bills into 2 bills, the 64 Civil Rights Act and the 65, and the reason that he did is he just didn't think the country could swallow that much in one gulp, and I think that was a wise decision. Would he, in retrospect, would you all have been better to break this into 2 bills, find something that everybody could agree on, pass that into law?
I think it's unlikely that the second piece would have happened. Remember, 7 presidents had tried this, 7 presidents had failed. And so there wasn't any blueprint that would suggest there was an easy way to do it. And he had big majorities in the Congress in the first term. We tried to forge a bipartisan coalition. He waited 6 months to try and put that coalition together. I wrote about that. He said he was willing to allow Olympia Snowe to move into the White House and said he'd take an apartment if she would sponsor the bill. And we just couldn't forge that. But I think that he did it the only way he could, by going for it at once.
Why has he had such a hard time connecting with people on Capitol Hill, and not just in one party, but in both?
Yeah. You know, I think everybody's strength is their weakness. His strength is that he believes that there are more important things than winning elections. He thinks that when you get elected, your role is to try and get big things done. That's not the prevailing view among a lot of folks in this town. I wrote in the book about right after the health care, when he was talking to the caucus about the health care bill, Democratic caucus in the Senate, we went back to the White House and he's in the car and he says, "What are they so afraid of?" And I said, "Well, I think they're afraid of losing their jobs." And he said, "Well, what's the point of being up here for 30 years if you don't do anything?" And I said, "Look, I think they want to do something, but if it's a choice between that and being up here for 30 years, they'd rather be up here for 30 years. He hasn't fully related to that. And sometimes there's an air of moral superiority that creeps in because he feels like we have a responsibility to do big things. Why don't you see it the way I see it?
Mm-hmm. Do you think Hillary Clinton is inevitable?
Well, inevitable is a very tough word, and I actually think that's a trap for her. I think she is highly likely to be the Democratic nominee. I can't see another scenario, but this is exactly what got her in trouble the last time, because with inevitability comes caution, and she was unwilling to be venturesome and to really be revealing of herself and really connecting with people. Only after she lost the Iowa caucuses did we see that person emerge. It's important for her to come out that way, this time for her to be ultimately successful.
You really didn't want her in the Obama administration.
Well, I was wondering how this was going to work after a 2-year, very, very pitched battle, and the president had every confidence. He said she was a friend before, and she'll be loyal. And he felt like he was going to be focused on the economy. He needed someone who would be recognized in foreign capitals as the A team. And what was one of the nice stories of the administration when I was there was the relationship they developed, which was very respectful and very positive.
David Axelrod, we want to thank you, and we also want to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you.
Today. I've got one next week.
Thanks, Bob.
We'll be
Good
back,
to share it with you.
Thank you very much. We'll be back to look at some of the weather lately and what it's doing to human behavior. Stay with us.